The United Earth Council chamber was a large round room with seats rising up in circles like a stadium. Usually, this room was calm and organized. Leaders spoke in turns. They discussed problems slowly and carefully. They made decisions after weeks of debate. But not tonight. Tonight, the room was full of noise. Men and women shouted at each other from their seats. Some were standing. Some were waving their arms. The holographic screens around the room showed the alien signal playing over and over again. Crystal cities burning. Blue-skinned people dying. Children screaming. At the center of the room, Admiral Taiho stood alone. He waited for the noise to stop. He did not speak. He just waited. Finally, Chancellor Minji raised her hand. She was the leader of the council, a small woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen everything. When she raised her hand, people became quiet. That was the power she had. "Admiral Taiho," she said, "you have made a very unusual request. You want us to send 200 warships into unknown space to help a species we have never met. Please explain why we should do this." Taiho stepped forward. "Chancellor, I understand that this is unusual. I understand that it is dangerous. But I also know that it is right." "Right?" A large man named Councillor Park stood up from his seat. His face was red with anger. "How is it right to risk 1 million of our soldiers for strangers? We do not know these aliens. We do not know if they deserve our help. We do not even know if we can win this fight." "Councillor Park makes a good point," another leader said. Her name was Councillor Yuna, and she was known for being very careful. "We have worked hard to build peace in our region of space. If we send our fleet away, we leave ourselves weak. What if someone attacks us while our ships are gone?" More voices joined in. More arguments. More fear. Tae-ho listened to all of it. He understood their worry. These were leaders who had to think about billions of people. They had to be careful with every decision. One mistake could mean disaster for all of humanity. But he also knew something that numbers and logic could not explain. "May I speak?" he asked when the noise died down. Chancellor Minji nodded. Tae-ho took a deep breath. "Councillors, I have been a soldier for 30 years. I have fought in wars that some of you remember. I have seen death. I have caused death. And I have learned something important from all of it." He paused and looked around the room at each face. "The universe is cold," he said. "It is dark and empty, and most of it does not care if we live or die. But we are not cold. We are not empty. We are human beings. And the thing that makes us human is not our technology or our military power. It is our ability to care about others." "Pretty words," Councillor Park said. "The pretty words do not win wars." "No," Tae-ho agreed. "But they remind us why we fight. Councillors, those people did not call us. Their signal was meant for someone else. Someone who no longer exists. They sent their cry into the darkness, expecting nothing. And by pure chance, we heard them." He pointed to the screens showing the signal. "Look at them. Look at their faces. They have never known war. They have no weapons. They have no soldiers. They trusted in the goodness of the universe, and now they are paying the price for that trust." "That is their problem," Councillor Park said. "Not ours, is it?" Tae-ho asked. "Today, it is them. Tomorrow, it could be us. The universe has many dangers, many threats. If we turn away from people who need help, we become no better than the ones who hurt them." Commander Hannah stepped forward from her place near the door. "Permission to speak, Chancellor?" Minji looked surprised but nodded. Hannah walked to the center of the room to stand beside Tae-ho. "Councillors, I am a military commander. My job is to think about strategy and odds and numbers. So let me give you some numbers." She pulled up a display on the holographic screen. "We have analyzed the signal. The attacking force appears to be approximately 500 ships. They are from a species called the Krath. Our intelligence has some information about them from old records found in space debris. They are conquerors. They have destroyed at least 40 civilizations in the last 1,000 years. The room went quiet. 40 civilizations. The number was terrifying. If we send 200 ships, Hana continued, we will be outnumbered more than 2 to 1. Our chance of winning a direct battle is not high. Counselor Park smiled. So, you agree with me? This mission is foolish. No, Hana said. I said our chance of winning a direct battle is not high. But humans have never won by fighting directly. We win by being smart, by being unexpected, by doing things that our enemies never imagine. She changed the display to show a map of space. The Krath are used to fighting species that are weak or peaceful. They have never faced a military force like ours. They do not know our tactics. They do not know our technology. And most importantly, they do not know our will. What do you mean? Chancellor Minji asked. I mean that humans do not give up. Ever. We have fought against impossible odds throughout our history. We have won wars that should have killed us. We have survived disasters that should have ended our species. And we did it because we refused to stop. Because we cared too much about the people we were fighting for. Hannah's voice became stronger. The Valari have no soldiers. They have no weapons. But if we go there, they will have us. And we are worth more than any number the Krath can bring. The room was silent. Even Councillor Park had no response. Chancellor Minji stood up from her seat. She was small, but in that moment, she seemed larger than everyone else in the room. I have listened to all of you, she said, and I have made my decision. Everyone held their breath. Admiral Taiho is right. We cannot call ourselves human if we ignore a cry for help. We cannot look at ourselves in the mirror if we let innocent people die because we were too afraid to act. She looked around the room with hard eyes. I am authorizing this mission. The Third Fleet will launch. We will send our ships across the stars to save a species we have never met. And we will do it because that is who we are. Councillor Park stood up. Chancellor, I must protest. Your protest is noted and rejected, Minji said firmly. Admiral Taiho, you have 72 hours to prepare. Use them well. Taiho saluted. His heart was beating fast, but his face stayed calm. Thank you, Chancellor. We will not fail. See that you do not, she replied. The honor of humanity goes with you. The next 3 days were chaos. Every military base on Earth and the colony worlds came alive with activity. Ships were pulled from their stations. Soldiers were called from their homes. Weapons were loaded. Supplies were gathered. Admiral Taiho stood in the command center of his flagship, the Earth's Hope. It was the largest warship ever built by humanity. 3 kilometers long. Weapons covering every surface. Shields that could stop a small moon. It was a mountain of metal and fire, but even with all its power, Taiho knew the mission was dangerous. They were going into the unknown, fighting an enemy they did not understand. Trying to save people they had never met. Commander Hannah joined him on the bridge. All ships report ready, Admiral. 200 warships, 500 support vessels, 1 million soldiers. 72 hours exactly. Good, Taiho said. What about the scout ships? Captain Junho is leading them. They left 12 hours ago. They should arrive at Valara before us and send back information. Taiho nodded. Junho was a good officer. Careful, but brave. He would do his job well. Admiral, Hana said softly, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Why is this mission so important to you? I know you care about helping people, but I have never seen you like this before. What is different about this signal? Taiho was quiet for a moment. He looked out the window at the stars. When I was young, he said, my village was attacked by pirates. It was a small colony on the edge of human space. We had no military, no weapons, just farmers and teachers and children. He paused. His voice became heavier. We sent a distress signal. We begged for help. And for 3 days, no one came. The pirates burned our homes, killed our families. I lost my mother, my sister, everyone I loved. Hannah said nothing. She just listened. On the 4th day, help finally arrived. A single patrol ship that heard our signal by accident. They saved the survivors. They saved me. But they were too late for most of us. Taiho turned to face Hannah. His eyes were wet, but his voice was strong. I have spent my entire life making sure that I would never be too late again. That no one would ever send a cry for help and hear only silence. That is why this mission matters. Because somewhere across the stars, there is a child like me, watching their world burn, praying for someone to come. He looked back at the stars, and I will not let them pray in vain. Hannah put her hand on his shoulder. Then let us go save them, Admiral. Taiho smiled. It was a small smile, sad and determined at the same time. All ships, he said into the communication system. This is Admiral Taiho. We are about to begin the longest journey in human history. We are going to face an enemy we do not know, in a place we have never been, for people we have never met. He paused. Some of you may wonder why. Some of you may be afraid. That is okay. I am afraid too, but I am also proud. Proud to serve with you. Proud to be human. Because today, we are going to show the universe something it has never seen before. His voice rose. We are going to show them that when someone cries for help, humanity answers. Always. No matter how far. No matter how dangerous. No matter what the cost. The stars above the planet Valara had always been peaceful. For 10,000 years, the Valari people lived under those stars without war. They built great cities of crystal and light. They studied the universe and created beautiful art. They never hurt anyone. They never wanted to fight. But on this night, the stars brought death. Elder Kiro stood at the window of the Grand Temple and watched the sky burn. Bright orange lines cut through the darkness above. Each line was an enemy ship entering their atmosphere. Each ship carried soldiers who wanted to kill his people. The Krath had come. Kiro was old. His blue skin had faded to pale gray over his 300 years of life. His 4 eyes, once bright and full of hope, now showed only fear. He had read about the Krath in old books. They were conquerors. They moved from world to world and took everything. They left nothing behind but ash and bones. Elder, a young Valari named Tira ran into the room. Her voice was shaking. The shields are failing. The western city is already gone. What do we do? Kiro did not have an answer. His people had no weapons. They had no soldiers. They had removed all violence from their society long ago. It had seemed like wisdom then. Now it seemed like foolishness. We pray, Kiro said softly. We activate the old beacon and we pray. Tira looked confused. The beacon? But Elder, that was built for the Guardians. The Guardians died out 1,000,000 years ago. There is no one to answer. I know, Kiro said, but it is the only thing we can do. Deep beneath the Grand Temple, there was a room that no one had entered for thousands of years. Kiro walked down the ancient stairs with Tira following behind him. Dust covered everything. Strange machines filled the space, all of them old and forgotten. In the center of the room stood the beacon. It was a tall crystal tower that glowed with faint blue light. The Guardians had given it to the Valari long ago. They said it would call for help across the stars. They said someone would always answer, but the Guardians were dead now. Their entire species had vanished from the galaxy. The beacon was just an old machine that served no purpose. Still, Kiro placed his hand on the crystal. He closed his eyes and pushed his thoughts into it. He showed the beacon images of his dying world. He showed it the craft ships in the sky. He showed it his people running and screaming and dying. Please, he thought, if anyone can hear this, please help us. The beacon pulsed once with bright light. Then it went dark. Kiro felt tears running down his face. It had not worked. No one was listening. No one would come. Above them, the city began to shake as craft bombs fell from the sky, 12,000 light years away. On a small blue planet called Earth, it was midnight. Admiral Taiho was not sleeping. He never slept well. Too many thoughts always filled his mind. He sat in his office at Earth Fleet Command and looked at reports on his screen. Everything was quiet. No threats. No problems. Just another boring night. Taiho was 52 years old. His black hair had started to turn gray at the sides. His face was hard and serious because he had seen too many battles in his life. But his eyes were kind. Everyone who knew him said that about him. Even when he was angry, his eyes were kind. A soft sound made him look up. The communication panel on his desk was blinking. But it was not the normal light. It was a strange blue color he had never seen before. Computer, Taiho said. What is that signal? Unknown, Admiral, the computer replied. The frequency does not match any known communication system. Origin point is approximately 12,000 light years away. Taiho leaned forward. 12,000 light years. That was far beyond human space. That was in the deep, unknown regions where no Earth ship had ever traveled. Can you decode it? He asked, attempting now. The blue light continued to blink. Taiho felt something strange in his chest. It was like a feeling of urgency, like someone was calling to him directly. He could not explain it. Decoding complete, the computer said. The signal contains visual and emotional data. Do you wish to view it? Yes. The screen in front of Taiho changed. He saw images that made his blood go cold. He saw a beautiful world with crystal cities. He saw blue-skinned people with 4 eyes. They looked peaceful, gentle. They looked like they had never harmed anyone in their entire existence. Then he saw the ships. Dark and ugly ships filling the sky. He saw the cities burning. He saw the people running. He saw children crying and parents trying to protect them. He saw death coming for all of them. And then he felt it. The emotional data. A wave of pure terror and hopelessness washed over him. It was the feeling of an entire species facing extinction. It was the desperate prayer of a dying world. Please, if anyone can hear this, please help us. Ho stood up so fast that his chair fell over. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding. He had received countless distress calls in his career. He had responded to many of them. But nothing had ever felt like this. This was not just a signal. This was a scream from the deepest part of a soul. He pressed the emergency button on his desk. Alarms began to ring throughout the command center. In minutes, officers were running into the room. They looked confused and worried. Admiral, what is happening? Asked Commander Hana, his second in command. She was a tall woman with sharp eyes and short black hair. She was the best tactical mind in the fleet. We received a signal, Taiho said. From far away. A species is being attacked. They are being killed. Hana looked at the images on the screen. Her face became pale. Who are they? Who is attacking them? I do not know. The signal does not say. But it does not matter. They need help. Another officer stepped forward. His name was Junho, and he was in charge of intelligence. Admiral, with respect, This signal came from 12,000 light years away. That is far outside our territory. We have no agreement with these people. We do not even know who they are. I know, Taiho said. The trip would take our fastest ships 3 days through hyperspace. We would be going into completely unknown space. We do not know what threats are there. We do not know how many enemies there are. This could be a trap. I know, Taiho said again. Then why did you sound the alarm? Junho asked. Taiho turned to face him. Tell me, Junho, when you saw those images, what did you feel? Junho was quiet for a moment. Then he lowered his head. I felt like I needed to help them. So did I, Taiho said. So will everyone who sees this signal. That is why I sounded the alarm. Because someone out there is dying, and they called for help. Maybe they did not mean to call us. Maybe they meant to call someone else. But we are the ones who heard them. And I cannot ignore a cry for help. Hannah stepped closer to him. What do you want to do, Admiral? Taiho looked at the images again. The crystal cities burning. The gentle people dying. The children crying. I want to assemble the third fleet, he said. I want 200 warships and 1 million soldiers ready to launch within 72 hours. I want our fastest scouts to leave immediately to gather information. Admiral, Junho said carefully, this will require approval from the United Earth Council. A military action of this size cannot happen without their permission. Then get them on a call, Taiho said. Wake them up if you have to. I will speak to them myself. I will make them understand. Hana was already giving orders to the other officers. The room became busy with activity. People were running everywhere, making calls, checking systems, preparing for war. But Taiho stood still. He looked at the screen where the signal still played. He looked at the face of the old blue-skinned alien who had sent the message. Even through the technology, he could see the despair in those 4 eyes. We are coming, Taiho said softly, even though no one could hear him. Hold on, we are coming. On the other side of the room, Hana paused in her work. She had known Taiho for 15 years. She had served under him in 3 wars. She had seen him make hard decisions many times. But she had never seen him like this. There was something burning in his eyes. It was more than duty, more than honor. It was something very human, something that their species had carried for millions of years. It was the simple need to help someone who was suffering. Hana smiled slightly. This was why she had joined the fleet. This was why she had dedicated her life to military service. Not for glory, not for power, but for moments like this. Moments when humanity could show the universe what they truly were. She turned back to her work. There was much to do and little time. Somewhere across the stars, people were dying. An Earth fleet was going to save them, whether they had been called or not. Captain Junho hit the ground running. His boots crushed the broken stones of what had once been a beautiful plaza. Around him, his soldiers fanned out in perfect formation. They moved like water, flowing through the rubble with practiced ease. Squad leaders. Report, Junho said into his communicator. Alpha Squad. Position secured. Beta Squad, moving to objective. Gamma Squad. Contact with enemy. Engaging. Junho smiled grimly. His soldiers were the best in the fleet. Every one of them had trained for years. Every one of them had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might not come back. A Krath soldier appeared from behind a fallen wall. He raised his weapon. He never got to fire it. 3 human soldiers shot him at the same time. He fell without a sound. Move forward, Junho ordered. Our priority is finding survivors. The Valari are hiding in basements and shelters. We need to reach them before the Krath do. His soldiers advanced to the ruined city. The The crystal towers that had once reached toward the sky were now broken stumps. The beautiful buildings were piles of ash. Bodies of Valari lay everywhere. Men, women, children. Junho felt anger burning in his chest. He had seen war before. He had seen death. But there was something especially terrible about this. These people had never fought anyone. They had trusted in peace. And this was their reward. "Captain," one of his soldiers called out, "I have movement in that building." Junho looked where the soldier was pointing. A large structure that might have been a school. Parts of it were still standing. Faint sounds came from inside. "Circle around," Junho ordered. "Be ready for Krath, but also be ready for survivors. We do not want to hurt the people we came to save." His soldiers moved into position. Junho approached the front entrance with his weapon raised. The door was gone, blown away by explosions. Inside, he could see only darkness. He activated the light on his weapon and stepped inside. The first room was empty. Desks and chairs scattered everywhere. Papers on the floor. Drawings that children had made, now stained with ash and dust. Junho moved deeper into the building. His soldiers followed, covering every angle. The sounds grew louder. Voices, crying, someone speaking in a language he did not understand. Then he heard Krath voices too. "They are in the back room," someone said in the harsh Krath language. "Break down the door." Junho moved faster. His soldiers followed. They rounded a corner and found a hallway. At the end of it, 4 Krath soldiers were trying to break through a heavy door. Behind that door, Junho could hear Valari voices screaming in fear. "Drop your weapons." Junho shouted. The Krath turned. They saw the human soldiers. For a moment, everyone was still. Then the Krath raised their weapons. It was over in seconds. Human guns fired faster. Human aim was better. The 4 Krath soldiers fell to the ground. They did not move again. Junho approached the door. "This is Captain Junho of the United Earth Fleet," he said loudly. "The Krath soldiers are dead. You are safe now. Please open the door." Silence. Then slow shuffling sounds. The door opened a crack. A single blue eye looked out. You are not Krath," a weak voice asked. "No, we are human. We came to help you." The door opened wider. Junho saw perhaps 30 Valari inside. Children mostly. A few adults who looked injured. Their blue skin was pale with fear. Their 4 eyes were wide. "I do not understand," the Valari adult said. "We did not call you. We call for the Guardians." Junho smiled softly. "Sometimes the universe sends different help than you expect. Are any of you hurt? Do you need medical attention?" The Valari nodded slowly. She seemed unable to believe what was happening. Junho turned to his soldiers. "Get the medics. Set up a safe zone. And keep searching. There will be more survivors." Above the planet, the space battle raged on. Admiral Taiho stood at the center of his bridge, watching the holographic display that showed the entire battlefield. Red dots for Krath ships. Blue dots for human ships. Orange explosions where someone had died. The Krath still had more ships. But the gap was closing. "Admiral," Hunter reported, "we have destroyed 87 enemy vessels. We have lost 12 ships. Our fighters? Performing beyond expectations. The Krath cannot track them. Their weapons are too slow." Taiho nodded. Human fighter pilots were the best in the galaxy. They trained in simulators from childhood. They flew in formations that looked chaotic, but were actually precisely calculated. The Krath military had never faced anything like them, but the Krath were adapting. They were beginning to use different tactics, grouping their ships together for combined fire. targeting the larger human vessels instead of chasing fighters. "They are learning," Taiho said. "Yes, Admiral. They are not stupid. We need to end this before they figure us out completely. What do you suggest?" Hannah pulled up a tactical display. The craft flagship. It is here, in the center of their formation. Their commander is there. If we can destroy it, the rest of their fleet will lose coordination. Taiho studied the display. The craft flagship was huge, almost as big as the Earth's Hope. It was surrounded by dozens of escort ships. Getting to it would be nearly impossible. "We cannot break through that defense," he said. "Not directly. But what if we do not go through them? What if we go around them?" She explained her plan. It was risky. It required perfect timing. If anything went wrong, many human soldiers would die. But it could work. "Do it," Taiho said. "And Hannah? Lead the attack yourself." Hannah's eyes widened. "Admiral, you designed this plan. You should execute it. I trust you." Hannah stood straighter. Pride and determination filled her face. "Yes, Admiral. I will not fail." She left the bridge to prepare. Taiho watched her go, then turned back to the battle display. Everything they had done led to this moment. Everything depended on what happened next. On the surface of Valara, the fighting had spread across the entire planet. Human soldiers battled craft forces in every city, in every town. In every ruin, Captain Junho had found the Grand Temple. His soldiers had cleared the area of enemies. Now he stood at the entrance to the basement, looking down at the group of survivors inside. Elder Kiro looked back at him. The old Valari's eyes were filled with wonder and confusion. "You came," Kiro said. "You actually came." "Of course we did," Junho replied. "Someone asked for help. But we did not ask you. We did not even know you existed." Junho smiled. "That does not matter. What matters is that you needed help. And we could give it." Little Nara stepped forward. She looked up at Junho with her 4 big eyes. "Are you a guardian?" She asked. Junho knelt down to be at her level. "No, little one. We are humans. We are just people from a different world. Why did you come to save us?" The question was simple. A child's question. But it held all the weight of the universe. Junho thought for a moment. "Because helping others is what makes us who we are. Because your pain is our pain. Because somewhere, long ago, someone helped our ancestors when they were in trouble. And now we help others. That is how the universe becomes a better place." Nara did not fully understand, but she smiled anyway. And that was enough. In space, Commander Hana led a small group of ships on a dangerous path. They had separated from the main fleet. They were flying through an asteroid field near the edge of the battle. The craft did not notice them. They were too busy fighting the main human force. "All ships," Hana said quietly. "Stay close. Stay silent. We will only have one chance at this." Her team consisted of 10 destroyers and 50 fighters. Small compared to the craft flagship. But speed and surprise could overcome many disadvantages. They emerged from the asteroid field behind the craft formation. The enemy escort ships were all facing the wrong direction. The flagship itself was almost undefended from this angle. "Now," Hana shouted. "All weapons fire." 10 destroyers unleashed everything they had. Missiles shrieked through space. Energy beams cut through the void. The 50 fighters added their own fire, targeting the flagship's engines and weapons. The craft flagship shook under the attack. Explosions tore across its surface. Its shields flickered and died. On the craft bridge, the commander screamed in rage. "Turn around. Target those ships." But it was too late. The damage was done. The flagship's main weapons were offline. Its engines were failing. It began to drift helplessly. Krath Fleet, Hana broadcast. Your flagship is destroyed. Your commander is defeated. You have two choices. Retreat now and live, or stay and die. Decide quickly. For a long moment, nothing happened. The battle continued. Ships fought and exploded on both sides. Then, one by one, the Krath ships began to turn. They were retreating, breaking off from the fight, running toward the edge of the system. They are leaving, Taiho said from his bridge. He could not quite believe it. They are actually leaving. Should we pursue? An officer asked. Taiho shook his head. No, let them go. Our mission was to save the Velari, not to destroy the Krath. We have done what we came to do. He looked at the planet below. Beautiful Velara, scarred by war but still alive. Still holding survivors who would now have a chance to rebuild. All ships, he announced. Stand down from combat. Begin rescue operations. Find every survivor. Save every life you can. The human fleet shifted from war to mercy. Ships that had been weapons of destruction now became carriers of hope. Soldiers who had been killers now became rescuers. Captain Junho helped Elder Kiro walk out of the basement and into the light. The old Velari looked up at the sky. It was filled with human ships, but these were not ships of war. Around him, the bridge crew stood straighter. Their eyes burned with purpose. All ships, P3 days had passed since the beacon was activated. 3 days of fire and death. Elder Kiro sat in the basement of the Grand Temple with the last survivors of his city. There were perhaps 200 of them, mostly children and old people. The young and strong had tried to fight with their bare hands. They were all dead now. Above them, the city was silent. The Krath had stopped bombing. That meant they were sending soldiers to walk through the streets, to find anyone still alive. To finish the killing, little Nara sat next to Kiro. She was only 7 years old. Her parents had been killed on the first day. Now she held onto Kiro's hand like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Elder, she whispered, will the sky people hurt us? Kiro did not know how to answer. He did not want to lie to her, but he also could not tell her the truth. The truth was too terrible for a child. I do not know, little one, he said softly, but I will stay with you, no matter what happens. Nara nodded and pressed closer to him. Her small body was shaking with fear. Tira stood by the door, watching the stairs. She had found a metal bar somewhere. It was not much of a weapon, but it made her feel better to hold it. They are coming, she said. I can hear their footsteps. The survivors huddled together. Some were crying. Some were praying. Some just stared at nothing, too shocked to feel anything anymore. Kiro closed his eyes. He thought about his people. His beautiful, gentle people who had never hurt anyone. 10,000 years of peace. 10,000 years of art and science and love. All of it ending in this dark basement. He had activated the beacon. He had sent his prayer into the stars. But no one had answered. No one was coming. The Guardians were dead, and the universe was empty. Heavy footsteps sounded on the stairs. The Krath were coming. The door exploded inward. Krath soldiers poured into the room. They were tall and covered in dark armor. Their faces were hidden behind masks that glowed with red light. Each one carried a weapon that hummed with deadly energy. The leader stepped forward. He was larger than the others. His armor had markings that showed his rank. More of them, he said. His voice was harsh and cold. The weak species that cannot fight. How disappointing. He raised his weapon and pointed it at Kiro. Any last words, old one? Kiro stood up slowly. He kept Nara behind him, protecting her with his body. He looked at the Krath leader without fear. If he was going to die, he would die with dignity. Yes, Kiro said. I pity you. The craft leader laughed. You pity me? You are about to die. Your entire species is about to end. And you pity me? Yes, because you will never know what it means to create instead of destroy, to love instead of hate, to build instead of burn. You have won this battle, but you have lost something far more important. You have lost your souls. The craft leader stopped laughing. His eyes behind the mask burned with anger. Kill them all, he ordered. The soldiers raised their weapons. The survivors screamed. Kiro closed his eyes and held Nara tight. Then the world turned white. A sound like thunder filled the air. The basement shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The craft soldiers stumbled and fell. What is happening? The leader shouted, Report. One of his soldiers pressed a button on his armor. A holographic display appeared. What he saw made him freeze. Commander, he said slowly. Ships, many ships. They just came out of hyperspace. How many? The soldier's voice shook. Over 200. And they are not Krath. Above the planet Valara, space itself seemed to tear open. Bright light poured from the wounds in reality. And from that light came ships. Human ships. They were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Massive metal mountains covered with weapons. Sleek fighters that darted like angry insects. Carriers that blocked out the stars with their size. And at the front of them all, the Earth's Hope, largest warship humanity had ever built. The Krath fleet was caught completely by surprise. They had been in orbit, relaxed and confident. They had conquered this world easily. They did not expect anyone to challenge them. Now they scrambled to battle positions. 500 Krath ships began to move, turning their weapons toward the new arrivals. On the bridge of the Earth's Hope, Admiral Taiho looked at the scene before him. His eyes were hard. His jaw was tight. Hannah, he said, what is the status of the planet? Commander Hannah checked her screens. 3 major cities destroyed. 2 more under attack. Estimated Valari casualties. She paused. Significant. But there are still survivors. We can still save some of them. That is enough, Taiho said. Open a channel. All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this. The communication officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Taiho stepped forward. His voice carried across space, reaching every ship in the system. Human, Krath, Valari. This is Admiral Taiho of the United Earth Fleet. We have received a distress signal from this world. We have come to answer it. He paused. To the Krath forces. You will stop your attack immediately. You will leave this system. You will never return. This is not a request. It is a command. You have 5 minutes to begin retreating. If you do not, we will destroy you. Silence followed his words. Then laughter came through the communication system. Krath laughter. Destroy us? The Krath commander replied. Foolish creatures. You have 200 ships. We have 500. You cannot win. You have made a terrible mistake coming here. Now you will die alongside these weaklings. Taiho smiled. It was not a kind smile. You misunderstand. I did not say we would fight you. I said we would destroy you. There is a difference. He turned to Hannah. Launch all fighters. Begin attack pattern Sigma 7. And activate the special package. Hannah grinned. With pleasure, Admiral. In the basement of the Grand Temple, the Krath soldiers were trying to figure out what was happening. Their commander was shouting orders into his communication device. But the answers he received made his face go pale. What do you mean they are attacking? Fight back. Destroy them. More explosions shook the building. Dust fell like rain. The lights flickered. Commander. One of his soldiers shouted. The enemy ships, They are not fighting like anything we have seen before. They are too fast, too coordinated. Our ships cannot track them." Kiro listened to all of this with growing wonder. Someone had come. The beacon had worked. After 1,000,000 years of silence, someone had heard their call. But who? Who were these people who came to help strangers? Who challenged an empire they had never met? The Krath commander looked at Kiro. His eyes were filled with hate and fear. "Who are they?" he demanded. "Who did you call?" Kiro shook his head. "I do not know. I called for the Guardians, but they died long ago." Then who answered? Before Kiro could respond, a new sound filled the air. It was not an explosion. It was a voice. A female voice, calm and clear, coming from every speaker in the city. "Attention Valari survivors. This is Commander Hana of the United Earth Fleet. We have received your distress signal. We are here to help." The voice continued, warm and reassuring. "Do not be afraid. We are not your enemies. We have come from a planet called Earth. We heard your cry for help, and we came to answer it. Stay hidden. Stay safe. We will deal with the Krath, and when it is over, we will find you." Kiro felt tears rolling down his face. Beside him, little Nara looked up with wide eyes. "Elder," she whispered. "Did she say they came to help us?" "Yes, little one. She did, but we did not even call them. We called for the Guardians." Kiro laughed through his tears. "It seems that the universe sent us something better than Guardians. It sent us friends." The Krath commander was backing away toward the door. His soldiers looked nervous. The sounds of battle above were getting louder. "This is not over," the commander said. "The Krath Empire does not lose. We will crush these humans, and then we will finish you." He ran up the stairs with his soldiers following. They had bigger problems now than a handful of survivors. Kiro watched them go. Then he looked up at the ceiling, toward the sky he could not see. "Thank you," he whispered. "Whoever you are, thank you." In orbit above the planet, the battle had begun in earnest. But it was not the battle the Krath had expected. Human fighters moved through space like nothing the Krath had ever faced. They were small and fast and seemingly everywhere at once. Their pilots flew with a skill and aggression that shocked the Krath commanders. The larger human ships did not charge into battle. Instead, they worked in perfect coordination. Some drew fire while others attacked from unexpected angles. They used the planet's moons as cover. They laid traps with mines and decoys. The Krath fought back with all their power. They had more ships, more soldiers, more firepower. But for the first time in their history, they were not winning. On the bridge of the Earth's Hope, Admiral Taiho watched the battle unfold. His face was calm, but his mind was racing. They were holding for now, but the Krath had the numbers. He needed to end this quickly. "Hana," he said. "Status of the ground forces? Ready to deploy. Captain Jonho is leading the first wave. They are waiting for your order." Taiho nodded. They needed to secure the planet. Save as many Valari as possible. Every minute that passed meant more innocent lives lost. "Tell Jonho to go. And tell him to show these Krath what human soldiers can do." Hana smiled. "He's going to enjoy that." Below, on the surface of Valara, Krath soldiers looked up as something new appeared in the burning sky. Human dropships. Hundreds of them. Fallon. They were medical vessels. Supply transports. Rescue craft. "I do not understand," Kiro said. 7 days had passed since the battle ended. 7 days of rescue and recovery. 7 days of hope slowly returning to a broken world. Elder Kiro stood in what remained of the Grand Temple's garden. Once, this place had been filled with flowers and crystal sculptures. Now it was mostly ash and rubble. but small green shoots were already pushing up through the gray. Life was returning. Behind him, he heard footsteps. Human footsteps. He had learned to recognize them now. They were heavier than Valari steps, more confident somehow. "Elder Kiro," Commander Hannah said as she approached. "I was hoping to find you here." Kiro turned and gave her a small bow. "Commander, I have been meaning to thank you. Your attack on their flagship saved all of us." Hannah shook her head. "I was just doing my job. The real heroes are the soldiers on the ground, and the Valari who survived. That takes more courage than fighting." They stood together in silence for a moment, looking at the ruined garden. "How many?" Kiro asked quietly. "How many of my people survived?" Hannah's face became sad. "About 300,000. Across the entire planet." Kiro closed his eyes. 300,000. His world had held nearly 2 billion people before the attack. So much loss. So much death. "I am sorry," Hannah said. "We came as fast as we could. I wish we had been faster." "No," Kiro said firmly. "Do not apologize. You saved 300,000 lives. 300,000 people who would be dead if you had not come. That is not a failure. That is a miracle." He turned to face her fully. "Commander, I have lived for 300 years. I have seen many things, but I have never seen anything like what your people did. You traveled farther than any of us knew was possible. You fought an enemy you had never met. You bled and died for people who were strangers to you." His voice broke slightly. "Why? Please, I must understand. Why did you do this?" Hannah was quiet for a long moment. She looked at the sky, then at the ground, then at Kiro. "When I was a child," she said slowly, "my grandmother told me a story. It was about a time long ago on Earth, when our world was divided into many nations that fought each other. There was a great disaster in one nation. Earthquakes destroyed cities. Millions of people were hurt and homeless." She paused. "The other nations did not have to help. They were not allies. Some of them were even enemies. But they sent help anyway. Food and medicine and rescue workers. Not because they had to, but because it was the right thing to do." She looked at Kiro. "My grandmother told me that this is what makes humans special. Not our technology or our strength, but our ability to care about people we have never met. To feel their pain as if it were our own. To help even when there is no reward." Kiro nodded slowly. "Your grandmother was wise." "She was. And she taught me something important. She said that the universe is very big and very dark. Most of it does not care about any of us. But we can choose to care about each other. We can choose to be lights in the darkness. And every time we make that choice, the universe becomes a little brighter." Tears fell from Kiro's 4 eyes. He did not wipe them away. "I activated the beacon hoping for the Guardians," he said. "I prayed for ancient protectors who no longer exist. And instead, the universe sent me humans. I think we received something better than we asked for." Hannah smiled gently. "The Guardians protected your people long ago. But they are gone now. Perhaps it is time for new Guardians. Perhaps that is why we heard your call. Perhaps this is the beginning of something new." On the other side of the ruined city, Admiral Taiho was meeting with the surviving Valari leaders. They had gathered in a temporary shelter the human engineers had built. It was not beautiful like their old buildings, but it was warm and safe. Captain Junho stood beside Taiho. Around the table sat 12 Valari elders, the last of their council. Many of them still showed signs of the attack. Burns, cuts, the hollow look of people who had lost everything. Admiral Taiho, one of the elders, said. Her name was Yura, and she had once been the leader of the northern continent. "We have been discussing your offer of assistance. We are grateful beyond words. But we must understand something first. Ask anything, Taiho said. You have told us that you will leave soldiers here to protect us, that you will send supplies and builders to help us recover, that you will teach us to defend ourselves so this never happens again. Yes, all of this is true. What do you want in return? Taiho looked confused. Want? Yes, what do you want from us? Resources? Land? Loyalty? What is the price for your help? The room went silent. The Valari watched Taiho with careful eyes. They had learned hard lessons in the past week. They no longer trusted easily. Taiho took a deep breath. He looked at each elder in turn. We want nothing. Yira shook her head. That cannot be true. No one does anything for nothing. There is always a price. Not for us. Not for this. Taiho leaned forward. Elder Yira, let me tell you something about humanity. We are not perfect. We have made many mistakes in our history. We have hurt each other. We have fought wars over foolish things. But we have also learned from those mistakes. And one thing we have learned is this. Helping others makes us stronger, not weaker. He gestured at Junho and the other humans in the room. Every person here volunteered for this mission. They knew they might die. They came anyway. Not because they were ordered to. Not because they were paid. But because somewhere inside every human is a voice that says, help them. They need you. Help them. Taiho's voice became softer. We do not want anything from you, Elder Yura. We do not want your resources or your loyalty. We only want to know that you are safe. That your children can grow up without fear. That the next time you look at the stars, you see hope instead of death. He smiled gently. That is our reward. Knowing that we made the universe a little better than we found it. The elders looked at each other. Yura's eyes were wet with tears she refused to let fall. I have lived for 400 years, she said quietly. I have met many species. I have studied many civilizations. But I have never met anyone like humans. She stood and bowed deeply. Thank you, Admiral Taiho. Thank you for everything. We will not forget this. For as long as our species exists, we will remember the day that humanity answered our call. Later that evening, as the sun set over the broken city, a ceremony was held. It was simple and quiet. Just a gathering of humans and Valari in the temple garden. Elder Kiro stood at the center. Commander Hana and Admiral Taiho stood beside him. Captain Junho was there with his soldiers. Little Nara stood at the front of the crowd, holding a single flower that she had found growing in the ruins. We gather here, Kiro said, to honor those we have lost, and to thank those who saved us. He paused and looked around at all the faces. Blue faces and pale faces. 4 eyes and 2 eyes. Different species. Different worlds. But in that moment, one family. When I activated the ancient beacon, Kiro continued, I did not expect anyone to answer. I prayed into the void with no hope. But someone heard. Someone came. Someone cared. He turned to Taiho. Admiral, I asked Commander Hana why your people did this. She gave me a beautiful answer. But I would like to hear yours. You are the leader of this fleet. You made the choice to come. Tell me, why? Taiho stepped forward. He was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Elder Kiro, he said finally, when I was a boy, my village was attacked. My family was killed. I was alone and afraid, and I remember thinking that no one would come, that no one cared, that I would die forgotten in the darkness. His voice caught slightly, but someone did come. A stranger. A patrol ship that heard our signal by accident. They saved me. They gave me hope. They showed me that the universe was not as cold as I had thought. He looked at Kiro with eyes full of old pain and new purpose. I've spent my entire life trying to be for others what that stranger was for me. A light in the darkness. A hand reaching out when all seems lost. A voice saying, "You are not alone." He placed his hand over his heart. "That is why I came, Elder Kiro, because someone cried for help. And I remember being the one crying. I remembered how it felt to believe that no one would answer. And I could not let anyone else feel that way. Not if I had the power to stop it." Little Nara walked forward. She held up her flower to Taiho. "This is for you," she said in her small voice. "I found it in the garden. It survived the fire. Like us." Taiho knelt down and took the flower gently. It was small and white and very fragile, but it was alive. Against all odds, it was alive. "Thank you, little one," he said. "I will keep it forever." Nara smiled. Then she did something unexpected. She wrapped her small arms around Taiho's neck and hugged him. For a moment, the hardened admiral looked surprised. Then his face softened. He hugged her back. Around them, humans and Valaria alike began to smile. Some laughed. Some cried. But all of them felt the same thing: hope. Elder Kiro watched the scene with tears streaming down his face. "You asked me once," he said to no one in particular, "why I pity the craft. This is why. Because they will never know moments like this. They will never feel the joy of connection. They will never understand that the greatest power in the universe is not destruction. It is love." He raised his voice so everyone could hear. "Today, we do not celebrate victory. We celebrate something far more important. We celebrate the day that we discovered we are not alone.